All right, welcome to the Money Multiplier, Becoming Your Own Banker, introduction to the infinite banking concept. So what I'm going to teach you today is how to become your own bank, become your own banker, and how to start warehousing your wealth in a place that takes advantage of all kinds of really cool things like uninterrupted compounding interest and creates a perpetual tailwind for all of the money that you're making and saving and creating from this point moving forward. So we're going to talk about really three major subjects. And so how to pay off debt while, quicker than otherwise possible and still building wealth, even while paying off debt. We're going to talk about how to recapture all of the money for any major purchases. So for example, how to make back every dollar for every car you'll ever buy, drive, and own into the future. And then we'll talk about how we can start keeping our money somewhere for our investing, especially in real estate, private money lending, and how we can make money twice. So we're making money through our investments, and we're also making money within this account that we're going to create, within this bank that we're going to create. So not only am I going to introduce you to the subject, I'm going to start teaching you how this works, so you can get off to the races, with your best foot forward and really get this thing rocking and rolling for you right from the start. So I'm going to start doing some education right now tonight as well. So let's go ahead and dig into this. All right. So this is my cell phone on the screen, 561-313-6213, my email address. I'll share that again here in a little bit. But, I'm here for you guys. So that's what I do all day, every day. I'm here to help. I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to do consultations and do complimentary calls to talk about your situation and how we can best help you moving forward. So when it comes to money and opportunity, that's what this is all about. Money and opportunity. And I could talk about money and opportunity for days and days and days. So we do multiple webinars every week. So one of the things I'm going to do for everybody on here right now is I'll send you a schedule of the webinars that we do each week. These are live training webinars. We do 6 to 7 every single week. And I want to invite you all. They're all free of charge. And that's what we do is we talk about money and opportunity on these webinars. So tonight I'm going to focus on, again, the infinite banking concept and how you can start creating your own bank right now, starting today. And then join us tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to get into, what's going on with the markets, what's going on with the policy that's happening right now, with the overall economy, what the Fed is doing, and how that affects your money and your finances. Tomorrow, so we do that on What the F Happened tomorrow morning at 1 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to have the Wealth Webinar Series where we start talking about different ways to build wealth and how you can start getting into some of this stuff. So join us for some of those different webinars if you want to get in deep on things like Wall Street and what's going on with the markets. So a couple people I wanted to introduce you to if you're brand new to this, if you've never been on one of these before. This is Brent Kessler. Brent Kessler is one of my mentors when it comes to the infinite banking concept. Brent is the owner and founder of the Money Multiplier. And he's had a huge influence in my life over the last several years since I started implementing infinite banking into my life and my finances. And absolutely love Brent. If you haven't met him before, you guys got to get to know him and meet him at an event or something like that. But just an unbelievably awesome guy. If you're on here right now, odds are Chris Noggle. And Chris Noggle is my business partner and partner in all of this stuff that we do. And another just unbelievably hardworking person. You cannot surround yourself with better coaches, mentors, trainers than Brent Kessler and Chris Noggle. So if you don't know them, check out themoneymultiplier.com. And I'll share some different resources that Chris and I do on the YouTube page and whatnot as we go here tonight. But that quote on the screen right there, it's never about how your actual resources, it's about how resourceful you can be. At the end of the day, it boils down to that right now. It doesn't matter where you're starting right now. It doesn't matter where you are in life. There's so many resources out there and things we can take advantage of. So I'm going to start introducing you to that stuff here tonight and how that works. And this is one of my other favorite quotes. The problem in America isn't so much what people don't know. It's what people think they know that just ain't so. A lot of what I do is changing people's mindset when it comes to finances and money and investing. So we start getting rid of the mysteries of money. We start breaking through the the ways that we've always looked at money and or maybe never looked at money. And there's so many people that I talk to on a regular basis that they are just absolutely convinced that what we do is either not possible or that what they do is the only way to do things and there's no better way of doing things. And it's just not true. Just because you've never learned something before doesn't mean that it's not very powerful. Could you guys agree with that? Do you know what I'm talking about with that? And I'll give you an example, like this infinite banking concept that we teach and that we do every day, and you guys are on here learning about right now. This has been used in this country for over 200 years. So it's nothing new. You know, I've been teaching it for 3 years and using it. Brent's been teaching and using it for a little over a decade. But this is nothing new. This is something that's been around for a very, very long time. So this is just one of my favorite quotes. The problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, it's what people think they know that just ain't so. And one of the reasons that I know this is so true is because when we look at success and when we measure success financially in this country, one of the ways we can measure success is when somebody works their whole life for a goal, are they able to achieve that goal and then make that work for them into the future? And one of the ways that we can look at that is retirement. So the Social Security Administration tells us if we look at 100 Americans in this country at retirement age, only 5 out of 100 are going to be able to live the lifestyle that they want at the age that they want and do what they want in retirement. Only 5 out of 100, meaning the other 95 out of 100 Americans are not going to be able to retire the way and the age that they want to. And when we look at overall success and we look at overall people that take action on things and we look at goals and who actually reaches their goals, it always boils down to about 5%. Only 5% of people actually are going to take action and implement something and do something different in their lives that's going to allow them to reach their goals. The other 95% of people things are going to happen. And I've been doing this now for a very long time. I've been working with clients since I was a financial advisor out of college and have been in the coaching and training space for entrepreneurs and investors ever since. And that was about 14, 15 years ago. And what I found over those 14 and 15 years is that there's really 6 main reasons why people don't become the 5%, why they're not able to retire in that lifestyle that they want to when they want to. And those 6 things boil down to this right here. Taxes, inflation, volatility, following the status quo, fear in life, period. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start teaching you right now tonight how to eliminate these top 3 things from your life. We're going to reduce our tax burden. We're going to make inflation where it doesn't matter because we're keeping our money. We're always outpacing inflation and building wealth at a pace greater than inflation. Volatility. We're going to start warehousing our wealth and we're going to start being smart with our investing where we eliminate this volatility out of our lives, out of our financial lives. So when we get to retirement age, we have a consistent, predictable income for the rest of our lives. We know exactly what we need. We know exactly how to do it. And we know exactly how to implement it. So we don't have to worry about things like volatility where, hey, I'm living my life and then all of a sudden the stock market crashes and I got to go back to work. I mean, how many people did that happen to in 2000? How many people did that happen to in 2008? How many people is that going to happen to in 2022, 2023? And you don't need it to happen to you. So we're going to start setting ourselves up for success. We're going to start setting ourselves up with these strategies that have been used for over 200 years. And you're going to start implementing them in your lives because you're going to be the action takers. You're going to be that 5%. How do I know that? Because you're on here right now listening to me. There's so many people that were invited to this training right here tonight. Only about 5% of you are actually on right now. So you're my people, you're my 5%. You're the ones that I'm going to devote my time and energy into helping. So congratulations for being here. So things like following the status quo. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just think about a 401k, for instance. A 401k is a great example of that because when we start a 401k, a lot of people start 401ks. They don't really know they don't really know what a 401k is. It's just a great example. So think about what a 401k is. You're fresh out of college. You go and you get your first real job. You go to HR and they start talking to you and signing you up for insurance and all these different benefits that you get for getting this job, right? And then they say to you, hey, okay, now we're going to talk about retirement. So we have this thing we offer you called a 401k. And you're like, all right, well, should I do a 401k? They're like, well, yeah, everybody else does it. So you probably should too. There's a lot of advantages. And you're like, well, tell me about the advantages. And they say to you, well, it's a way to lower your tax burden right now because the money that goes into your 401k, you're not paying taxes on it right now. That money's going to go into their pre-tax dollars. And then the money's going to sit in there and it's going to grow for you. And then when you retire after age 59 and a half, you can start withdrawing that money and using it for retirement. At that point, you're going to pay taxes on it, but that's all right because you'll be in retirement and you won't be earning as much money then. But what are we really doing? Think about it. Because most people, when they start 401ks, are younger, right? In their 20s, their 30s, something like that. And so you're deferring the money, right? And deferring those taxes. But let me ask this, what are taxes doing right now? Taxes seem to always go up, right? They seem to go up and up and up. I mean, right now in this country, we're over $30 trillion in debt. We've printed something like $7 to $9 trillion over the last 2 years. We're spending money like there's no tomorrow on everything and anything under the sun. And there's no end in sight. And so the only way we're going to eventually have to start taking this under control is to tax the heck out of everybody. So don't expect taxes to go down. They're going to continue to go up. So why are we putting our money into something like that? And on top of that, if you're putting money in a 401k, and let's just say in 10 years from now, you want to buy a house, or in 10 years from now, you want to buy a rental property, or in 10 years from now, you just want to pull the money out and go do something else with it. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to penalize you. Not only are you going to pay taxes on it at that point, when taxes are higher, they're also going to hit you with a 10% penalty on your money. So you're giving up control of your money. And then once you put it in there, what can you invest in? The stock market. You have options of different types of funds within the stock market to invest in. That's it. You can't go and do private money lending. You can't do crypto investing. You can't buy precious metals like gold and silver. You're stuck in the stock market. So you're giving up control of your money to pay taxes on something where your tax may be higher. So it's things like that, and I can give you example after example after example, but it's just stuff like that we do just because everybody else does it. But if only 5% of people actually are successful doing it, then why do we continue to do it? Does that make sense to everybody? So then some of the things why we don't go against the status quo, how about fear? You're scared to do something different. Well, what invokes fear? Fear is simply not knowing. It's the fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen next. So maybe if I say, hey, Ronnie, instead of doing, well, Ronnie's not a good example. He's a bigger real estate investor, but let's say Jeff on here. Let's say Jeff is new. And Jeff says, I'm putting my money with my financial advisor and these funds in the stock market because I don't know real estate. I'm scared to do private money lending. Well, guess what? If you have somebody that educates you, teaches you how to do it and holds your hand and guides you along the way and supports you and answers all your questions, well, what are you scared of? It's proven to work. It's proven for you to be successful with it. So we're going to start eliminating fear by providing a lot of support, a lot of education, a lot of training. And when you understand something, you know something, you like something, guess what? You're not scared to invest in it anymore. You're not scared to do it anymore. So we can eliminate things like following the status quo, fear, and then it boils down to life. Can life get in the way? Is that one of the reasons that stops people from being successful? Absolutely. Nobody could predict that COVID was going to hit and shut down the country. Nobody can predict if your spouse cheats on you and you get a divorce and it ruins your entire life, or your boss fires you and you lose your job for whatever reason, or some disaster happens like a hurricane or a death in the family or whatever. Life gets in the way. Absolutely. But can we start doing things today to prepare for those disasters, prepare for those things that we can't predict are going to happen? Absolutely. We can set ourselves up through things like life insurance policy. We can set our things up like through things like trusts. We can start creating multiple streams of income where if you lose your primary income, you have 2, 3, 4, 5 other incomes that are keeping you above water until you can go get your primary source going again for yourself. So it's a matter of not sinking, but floating until we can start rising again. Is everybody okay with that? So there's a lot of things we can do in life to prepare that most of us don't do, but we can do today to prepare for what's happening in the future. So all of this stuff right here, all of this stuff boils down to what most people call excuses, why they're not more successful in life. Well, guess what? It's BS. It's BS, plain and simple. These are no longer excuses because we can teach you right now how without working any harder, without working any longer, without taking on any more risk, and we can get rid of all of this stuff from your financial life and set you up for success moving forward. Are you guys like that? Are you guys happy with that so far? All right. And if you guys do have questions, again, put them in the Q&A box because the chat box starts going and I can't always watch that. So go ahead and go there. All right. So homework number 1, when we're done here, go to YouTube, type in the backwards bicycle, and watch this video. It's like 8 minutes long. And what this kid does is he takes a bicycle and he reverses the way that the steering on it works. So when you hop on the bike, you've done your whole entire life. When you hop on a bike, you turn it one way, it goes that way. You turn it the other way, it goes that way. And if you've ever learned how to ride a bike and you stop riding a bike for 5, 10 years and you hop on that thing, you go right back into it. It's easy. Your brain gets programmed to learn how to ride a bike from a very early age, right? So by making that one change on how the steering works, guess what happens? You hop on that bike and it's literally impossible to ride that thing. They do a challenge in the video where they challenge people to come up on stage and ride this bicycle. Nobody can do it. Nobody. You can make a lot of money doing this. If anybody wants to do this and go to like a fair or a carnival or something, or like the street things, the street fairs, I guarantee you can make a lot of money doing this because everyone says, oh, the steering's backwards. No problem. I can do it. Nope. Ain't happening. But what this shows is our minds work one way. Like I was just saying, we're programmed to think one way our entire lives. So we got to start reprogramming our minds. So how do we start reprogramming our minds? Well, one of the ways is by hopping on trainings like this. Another way is to surround ourselves with successful people that are doing what we want to do. So mentors, coaches, trainings, seminars, webinars. Another really good resource, books and audiobooks. So if you want to start getting more into the infinite banking concept, here's some really good books for you. Number 1, Robert Kiyosaki. Does anybody know who Robert Kiyosaki is? What's Robert Kiyosaki famous for? Do you guys know? Has anybody read any of his stuff? I love Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki, I had an opportunity to train with and work with and get to know a little bit when I was younger, when I was first getting into entrepreneurship and investing. And I was, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Thank you guys. I was all in on Rich Dad Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrant. I was just actually going through some of my library today, my education library. I recommend people do this. So any educational books, finance books, things like that, start buying them and keeping them. And then if you do the Audible stuff, just start building your Audible library. Like I have a huge, bookshelf full of these kinds of books and notebooks. So any notes you take, just start stacking those notebooks because you can go back years later and get little things that like you forgot about. It's a lot of fun to go back and read that stuff. So I'm a huge fan of Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad and what he teaches. But this book right here, Second Chance, that he wrote, that's a really good one that talks all about this concept that I'm teaching you right here tonight. Tony Robbins, he talks all about the infinite banking concept in this book, Money Master the Game. I think it's in chapter 3 or 4, but definitely check that out. That's a really good book. It's real thick, but it's a really, really good book. Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. This is the #1 book you should start with. So this is kind of like the Bible of what we do in infinite banking. And R. Nelson Nash is kind of like the godfather of what we do. R. Nelson Nash unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, but he's the one who really started bringing this concept into the mainstream. Prior to R. Nelson Nash, it was kind of reserved for like multimillionaires and billionaires. It's been used for over 200 years. The oil tycoons back in like the 70s and 80s were all all over it. And we're using it, putting millions and billions of dollars into these kinds of accounts that I'm going to show you and creating their own banks. But Art Nelson naturally brought it to the mainstream. So that's a really, really good book. And then the book that Brent and Chris wrote together a few years ago, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, it's kind of like an updated version of Becoming Your Own Banker. So that's a really good one. And then the Private Money Guide starts talking about how money moves and flows and private money lending along with real estate investing. This was a book that Chris wrote. So these are all really good books I'd recommend kind of starting out with. And then I can give you more and more, but how would you guys like it if I gave you Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery and the Private Money Guide completely free of charge just for being on this webinar right now with me? Would you guys want a free copy of these books to kind of get you started? Just put a yes in the chat box if you want those books free, just to make sure it's something you guys are okay. All right. So anybody that wants one of those, what you want to do is you want to go to this website right here. It's moneyschoolrei.com/snaggy. And let me just, so if you go to that page right there, just put in your name and email, phone. We're going to email you digital copies of both of those books free of charge. I'll also email you a couple other bonuses that I think are very valuable just for being on here. And then my call calendar is going to be on that link as well. So anybody that's on here right now, if you want to talk about your personal situation, you'll be able to schedule a call with me completely free of charge. And we could talk, is this right for you? I'll answer any questions that you have personally. We could talk about your situation. And then if it's something that makes sense to you and want to get the ball rolling and get this started, I'll be able to help you with that as well. So if you could please go to that site right there. All right. I do have a QR code too. I just need to put it in there. All right. So there's a hyperlink you can just click on to go right there. And then if you want a hard copy of Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, like an actual physical book, I just had one somewhere. Anyways, the actual hard copy of it, we'll give you that free too. You just got to pay shipping and handling. So the link will be on there if you want a hard copy also. All right. So like I said, I'm Stephen Nagy. I've been doing this for 15 years. Started as a personal financial advisor, fully licensed, Series 766, Florida 215 variable annuity insurance licenses. So had the full gambit. Started with Ameriprise Financial. I was invited to a seminar, actually, learned about real estate investing, got into that, was invited to start traveling and teaching with the company that eventually became Rich Dad Education and working with Robert Kiyosaki. So I started traveling the country in my mid-20s, having a blast. I mean, absolute blast at a young age. But more importantly, getting out there and learning, how to work with people that want to do better in their lives financially, people that want to get into investing, people that want to take back control of their money and just take back control in their financial lives in general. And, learning about, training and coaching and working with people one-on-one. That's the part I really, really like about all this business. And I've done a lot of real estate over the years. I've owned a few different companies. But today, I've lived down in South Florida for the last 12 years. I'm married. I have a 6-year-old son and absolutely love what I'm doing. So this is what I've devoted basically my life to at this point and plan to for, I have no plans of changing anything that I'm doing right now. So I'll be around, love working with you guys. So get those calls scheduled. Happy to chat with you. So, all right, let's start digging into this a little. So to kind of show you how a lot of this works, let's talk just for a minute about how money works. So let me just ask this plain and simple question. Can you make money earning 4% while paying 6%? What do you think? Yes or no in the chat box? Can you make money earning 4% while paying 6%? We got a couple of yeses on here. All right, let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so let's just say Mary says no, Jeff says yes. All right, so let's just say that you have, you want to buy a car. This car is $25,000. You've been saving up for the last few years. You now have $25,000 sitting in your bank account. So you go on down to your bank and you walk into the office, the branch office, and you say, hi, you go to the person behind the counter, the teller, and you say, hey, I'd like to, withdraw $25,000 from my savings account. And they're going to say, why? Okay. Which is kind of a weird question because it's your money, but nonetheless, they're going to ask you why. They're probably not even going to have that $25,000 to give you there right then. Probably have to come back in a couple of days, but nonetheless, you say, listen, I want my $25,000. So then all of a sudden this guy comes walking up. He's got a suit on and he's got a little name badge. And it says Vice President of banking or vice president of whatever, right? Have you ever noticed that everyone at the bank, except for a couple of the tellers, have suits on and they're all vice presidents of something? Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. There's a reason why. But this fancy guy comes up to you and he goes, listen, Steven, I know you want to buy a car for $25,000. So here's what I'm going to do for you. First off, that $25,000 in your account, your savings account, I'm going to start letting you earn 4% of that money. Now, it's a magic savings account because no savings accounts are offering 4% right now. But let's just say for the point of this example, that they're going to give you a magic savings account that's going to pay you 4%. Okay. You say, all right, that sounds good. And the banker says, and what we're going to do is we're going to use that savings account as collateral. And we're going to give you a loan for $25,000 using your savings account as a collateral. We're going to give you a loan for $25,000 that you can go use to buy that car. So that way your money stays in the savings account, growing for you at 4%. And you say, okay, well, that sounds pretty cool. That's really generous of you to do. So, I'll take the loan, but what are you going to charge me on the loan? And the banker says, well, we're going to charge you 6% on that loan. And you say, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. You're trying to screw me. I knew when I walked in here, you had a bowl full of lollipops. And what is the name on those lollipops? Dum-dums, right? Everywhere in the country has a bowl full of lollipops and it says dum. You say to the banker, listen, I know you think I'm a dummy. I know you think I don't know anything about money like nobody else does, but I'm smart enough to know that I'm not going to take 4% on my money and pay you 6%. I'm going to lose money. Common sense, right? Mary agrees. And then all of a sudden the banker says, no. Hear me out for a second. And they pull out a compound calculator, okay? And you guys can do the math on this. I already did it for you. So they pull out the compound calculator and they put in $25,000 at 4% over 5 years. Why are we doing 5 years? Because that's what a normal car loan is. And then we do a car loan, a car note over 60 months at 5 years, the same $25,000 at 6%. So here's what the math looks like. If we're paying this car loan back over 60 months at 6%, it's $483 a month. At the end of that 5 years, that $25,000 will be a total of $29,000. Now, hear me out over here. This $25,000 growing over the same 60 months, 5 years, but growing at 4%, that $25,000 grew to be just over $30,500. We were just able to make over $1,500 by earning 4% and paying 6%. Now, why does that happen? That happens because of something called compounding interest. All right, you guys saw it. It's over $1,500. And the reason why that happens is because compounding interest, your money is growing and growing and growing and growing each year. And each year that amount is a little bit higher. And each year it compounds off that higher amount. Where the car loan is a depreciating loan. So that 6% we're paying each year is on a less and less and less and less and less and less principal amount as that car loan gets paid down. So when I show you some different examples here tonight and we start looking at how the money multiplier method works, just keep that in mind. We can make money all day while paying one percentage and earning a separate percentage, okay? So just keep that in mind as we go. So what is the money multiplier method? Well, it consists of 3 parts. It consists of the machine, it consists of the marathon, and it consists of the millionaire. The machine is the vehicle used to create this bank, to create this account that we're going to use for the infinite banking concept. And I'll show you this in 2 seconds. The machine or the marathon means this is a process, okay? The process takes time and the process is more important than the machine. But if we use the machine and we follow the process, then you will become the millionaire. And we will start creating a legacy for your family so that all this money, everything that we're doing now passes down in multiples to your family, to your beneficiaries, to the people that are important to you in life. So if we follow this properly, this will be the end result right here. And I will prove this to you over the next little bit that we spend here this evening together. All right. So what is this machine? This machine is nothing more than a dividend paying whole life insurance policy from a mutually owned life insurance company. Now, hold on a second. Let me clarify. First off, this is not a whole life insurance policy that you buy from your brother-in-law, that you buy from your best friend from high school or whoever. Everybody knows somebody that sells insurance, right? This isn't a life insurance policy. Just call Policy Genius or go online to Policy Genius or call some insurance company and say, hey, I want one of these banking policies. It doesn't work that way. Over 99% of agents have no idea how to design and build these policies the way that we do it. So this is what we do as a company. This is what I do all day, every day. This is what my team does all day, every day. We work with these mutually owned insurance companies and we build these policies for you. And then we teach you how to use them. So I told you before, you're probably going to want to schedule a call with me. And that's what that call is for, to talk about your situation, because everybody's situation is different. But I just wanted to make that clear. This is not an off-the-shelf life insurance policy. This is very, very specially designed and built specifically for the infinite banking concept and becoming your own banker. Life insurance has been used for a long time. Banks are actually the largest purchasers of life insurance in this country. So I want to give you a little bit more homework. When we hop off of here, go Google BOLI, B-O-L-I. It stands for bank-owned life insurance, and start reading about BOLI a little bit. I mentioned before that guy in the suit at the bank that comes up to you with the vice president tag on, and how everybody at the banks are vice presidents. It's because that gives the bank an insurable interest on that individual, and they can now buy a life insurance policy on that person. Plain and simple. So go check out BOLI. We don't do IULs. IULs, in my opinion, are garbage. They should never be used for the infinite banking concept. And if anybody is telling you differently, they don't have necessarily your best interest in mind. As an agent, IULs pay a lot of commission. IULs for you do not have a lot of benefit. A lot of high fees, no access to your money. You're giving up control, volatile. No. So we don't do IULs whatsoever. If you want an IUL, that's the luck to you. We don't do that. These are whole life insurance policies only. And I can get into that more. And feel free to ask me. We've done a lot of videos on it, but the simple answer, no. All right, here we go. So who else other than banks have used this concept and used whole life in history? Well, how about Jim Harbaugh? Any college football fans out there? Jim Harbaugh is the head football coach of the Michigan Wolverines. This article is from 2016, November 2016. And it talks about how the University of Michigan announced that it had amended Jim Harbaugh's contract to include a creative deferred compensation alternative involving cash value life insurance. This arrangement makes Harbaugh the highest paid football coach in college in the country. This type of deferred compensation alternative appeals to talented leaders and executives all across the U.S. Who else? How about Joe Biden, the president of the United States? Joe Biden, it says here, this was from an article from 2014. And it says, in addition, he holds 6 life insurance policies with Mass Mutual. Mass Mutual is one of the insurance companies that we do these policies with, that we do business with. And he puts a lot of money into these things because he's able to keep it private. He doesn't have to disclose how much is in them, how he's using them. There's a lot of ways to use these for privacy. So that's what Joe Biden's doing. How about Walt Disney? Walt Disney when he had problems with traditional financing, Walt decided to provide his own financing. A large part of this came to be collaterally borrowing money from his cash value life insurance. How about Doris Christopher of Pampered Chef? She borrowed $3,000 from a life insurance policy to start the Pampered Chef, in her suburban Chicago home in 1980. How about Ray Kroc of McDonald's? Ray Kroc had financial issues. He borrowed money from his 2 cash value life insurance policies to cover salaries of key employees. Also, along with some of the wealthiest families in the country, I've used this for the last 200 years. People like the JPs, the Morgans, Chases, Vanderbilts, Rockefellers. The list goes on and on and on. Let's talk about the banks for a minute and how the flow of money works and how we're going to start using your own bank. When we talk about moving money, we talk about how the banks work. We talk about how you're going to start becoming the bank. We need to understand a concept called spread. Okay, so let me give you an example. If you take $100,000 down to the bank right now and you deposit it at the bank, first off, the bank doesn't take that money and like put it in a box with your name on it, right? The bank takes that money and what do they do with it? They immediately start moving that money. They don't just let it sit. They immediately start moving it. So what happens? I'll show you an example. Well, let's say you want to buy a house. So you go on down to the bank offers you a home mortgage. So let's say that when you go and you deposit that $100,000 at the bank, they offer you 4% in a savings account. They're then going to offer you or somebody else a mortgage. And let's say that mortgage costs 7%. You take that $100,000 at 7%. You give the $100,000 to the sellers. The sellers take that $100,000 and what do they do with it? They put it right back in the bank. Then you go to the bank, you say, okay, now that I got a new house, I need a new car for the garage. So they give you a car note. Let's say that's 8%. You go down to the car dealership, deposit it, or give it to the car dealership. The car dealership takes it. They deposit it back in the bank. Then you need to remodel the house, right? You got to add a new bedroom or redo the kitchen or add a pool or whatever. So you get a home remodel loan. Take that money, give it to the contractors. The contractors take it and put it right back in the bank. Then maybe you get yourself in some trouble financially, go do a debt consolidation loan, give it to the credit cards put it right back in the bank. So what do we just do right there? Well, the bank's paying us 4%. They're making 7%. So they just made a 3% spread on our money right there. Same thing with the car note, 4% spread. Same thing with the home remodel loan. They make a 5% spread, 8% spread. So that $100,000 we put in the bank, they're paying us 4%. They just made 20% off of our money. Is that right? They paid us 4% and they made 20% more. Check this out. The bank just made 500% off of our money that we left sitting there. How do I come up with that? Think about it. If they're paying me 4% on my money that's sitting there, and they just made 20% off of my money that's sitting there by keeping it moving, they just made 5 times the amount that they're paying me, or 500% off of the money that I'm going and depositing into my savings account. And you don't have to take my word for this. So more homework for you. Go to BauerFinancial.com. Bauer Financial is a bank research corporation or institution, I should say. And BauerFinancial.com tells us that banks make between 400 and 1,300% on money that you leave there. So let me ask you this. Why do you want to make the banks rich? Why do you want the banks to be able to continue to buy real estate all over the place? Think about where banks are located. Bank branch offices are on some of the busiest roads in every city, town, suburban, rural area in the country. They're everywhere. They buy the land, they build a bank, or they buy a building and they convert it to a bank. They own that real estate. They're making money off of your money. They're putting up skyscrapers and putting their name on the top of the most beautiful buildings in the most beautiful cities across the country and the world. These banks know how to make money. Do you know what banks invest in? Banks' M1 money supply, meaning where banks' money is located. The 2 main places where banks' money are located: whole life insurance policies and real estate. All we do is mimic what the wealthy do. We mimic what the banks do. Are you okay with that? We're not recreating the wheel. I didn't invent any of this stuff. I just learned how to implement it and make it where anybody else can do it. We're mimicking what the banks do. So let me ask you this. If you owned a hair salon, where would you get your hair cut? Or if you owned a restaurant and you had family come into town, where would you take them to eat? At your own restaurant, right? So if you have to do some banking and you owned your own bank, where would you go to deposit that money? In your own bank, right? So why haven't you opened your own bank yet? Maybe you just never learned about this before. And that's why you're here right now. And if it is, then I look forward to talking with you, because when you own your own bank, you're going to want to start depositing money into your bank, not somebody else's bank, making them 400 to 1300% returns off your money. You want to start making those returns. Are you okay with that? And that's what this is all about. So how do we start recapturing this money? How do we start using this concept to start growing our wealth? Well, let me show you one way. One way that we can do this is through recapturing all the current interest that we're giving to everybody else, such as banks. Because when we pay interest, guess what? The banks get that money. The banks get that interest and they make all the money. So let me show this to you. How do we start recapturing that money back to our bank instead of their bank? So here we go. If we look at how the average person spends money in this country, let's just take a dollar bill. Out of every dollar that you make, on average, 20 cents of that dollar goes to automobiles. So whether those are payments or gas or upkeep or whatever the case might be, 30 cents of every dollar that you make goes towards housing. 40 cents of every dollar you make goes to everything else. So food, entertainment, kids, travel, whatever the case might be, which leaves us with 10 cents. On average, once everything else goes out the door, what most people do is they save about 10 cents of every dollar. I think that amount's actually going down a little bit right now, but on average, 10 cents on every dollar. So let's go and build this backwards. Let me show you how we should be doing this and how you're going to start doing this after today. So first off, let's pay ourselves first, okay? So instead of giving everybody else all the money first, let's give ourselves the money first. How about that? So let's start with our savings, 10 cents. Then let's look at the automobile. On average, of the 20 cents of every dollar that you make that goes towards an automobile, on average, 5 cents of that 20 cents goes to interest. So instead of giving that interest to somebody else's bank, let's go ahead and recapture that interest back to our bank. Now, by doing that one step right there, what were we just able to accomplish with our savings? How much was our savings? How much did our savings just grow? 50%. Because if we were saving 10 cents before, now we're saving 15 cents, 50% growth. So we just increased our savings by 50 cents just by paying ourselves interest on the automobiles that we're going to buy instead of the bank. And if you're buying automobiles with cash and you're like, well, I'm not paying any interest because I'm buying them with cash. Well, let's talk about interest for a second here. If you take that $25,000, like I showed you before, and you go buy that car, where's that $25,000? It's gone. Whoever you bought the car from now has your $25,000, and you're never going to get it back for the rest of your life. So what are you giving up? You're giving up the earning potential of that $25,000. So if you think you got the system beat buying cash, nope. You're just looking at things wrong and you don't understand. You think you know what you just don't know. So we're going to recapture that. How about housing? How about our mortgage? Did you know that every 30 cents that we spend on housing, 25 of that 30 cents goes towards interest? Why is this so much? Because did you know that a 30-year fixed mortgage, over 90% of the interest is paid in the first 7 years? Did you also know that on average, an American in this country is going to either refinance or move and get a new mortgage on average every 7 years? Think about it. If all the interest is paid in the first 7 years, but you're moving every 7 years or getting a new mortgage every 7 years and starting it over, think about it. That's all interest that you're paying, all interest, all interest. So we're going to start recapturing that money. Let's take that back. At 25 cents, instead of going to someone else's bank mortgage, it's going to go back to our bank. And then everything else on average, 40 cents, 5 cents of that 40 cents goes to interest. So while we're at it, we might as well go recapture that right there. So what we've done right here, we haven't worked any harder. We haven't worked any longer. We haven't taken on any more risk, but we just increased our savings from 10% to 45% of every dollar that we make, just by paying ourselves that interest instead of other people. We're keeping all of that money in our financial lives instead of somebody else's. So let me show you specifically how we do this using with a car, for example. So how to get all the money back for every car you'll ever buy, drive, and own. But before I show you that, let's take a quick look under the hood, not of the car, but under the hood of one of these whole life insurance policies. So over on the right-hand side right here is what we call an illustration. So every whole life policy has an illustration attached to it. And the illustration shows all the money going in, all the cash value. The cash value is the amount of money that we have available from this account to use. The death benefit, and it's going to show you all of this every year for the rest of your life. So a couple things that I want to start teaching right now. First off, this $10,000 a year that's going into this illustration, going into this whole life policy, these are the policy premiums, okay? But I want you to start thinking of these premiums as deposits. Why? Because if I tell you you have like car insurance premiums due, or you have homeowners insurance premiums due, or you have some kind of bill that's due where you have a premium involved, you're kind of like, oh, I gotta pay that. Like, I don't want to pay my premiums. It's something that I'm losing right now. Like, I don't want to do that. But if you go out and you do a wholesale deal and you have a $10,000 check sitting there, or you go into a real estate flip and you have a $60,000 check sitting there from the deal, and guess what's going to happen? You're excited as hell to run down to the bank and deposit that into your business account or into your savings account, right? You're excited to go do that. Well, if this money is now going into your new bank, does it make sense that you'll now be excited to deposit that money into your own bank? Absolutely, right? So we immediately want to start changing our mindset and look at the money going into this as deposits into our bank, not a premium going into an insurance policy, okay? Very, very important right there. So from this point forward, I'm going to start referring to these as deposits, and I want you guys to do the exact same thing. Fair enough? Can you do that for me? Number two, the age of the person does not matter. So this individual happened to be 26 years old. I saw Drew on earlier. Myself, Chris, we've all started policies for our children. 6 months old, 2 years old, 5 years old. So the age doesn't matter. We do policies for people in their 60s and early 70s. Now, if you're 80 years old, maybe your health isn't the best, something like that, we might run into some problems, but guess what? We have solutions for that. You can still start one of these policies. You can own it. You can control it. You can put all the deposits in. You can use it for banking. It'll just be on somebody else's life. So if that's you, if you have a challenge getting this kind of insurance policy, then just let me know and we'll use somebody else's life. So no problem there at all. And the death benefit is attached to this thing. I just want to make it clear. We are doing this for banking purposes. If you want the most bang for your buck in death benefit and no value while you're alive, go buy a term policy. That's going to be your best bang for your buck for death benefit. But this death benefit starts to add up, and over time, it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. So just a couple little things right there that I wanted to point out on how these policy illustrations look. And now let's talk about how we start using this to get back all the money for every car you'll ever buy, drive, and own. When you start one of these policies, you're going to tell me how much you want to deposit into it on an annual basis. So this gentleman decided he wanted to put $10,000 a year into it. So he starts putting $10,000 a year in. In the third year, he decides that he wants to buy a car for $25,000. So in the third year, he pulls out $25,000. And then if we take a loan from our bank, just like if we were to take a loan from someone else's bank, we're going to pay that loan back, right? Of course. So we take the $25,000 out and then we start repaying the loan at $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. So over the first 7 years, we put $70,000 into the policy. We recaptured another $30,000 from the loan, and we took $25,000 out to buy that car. So we put a total of $75,000 into that policy. Now, in the 7th year of this policy, how much do we have available to use again? $67,000. So we put 75 in. We have 67 available. We have a $25,000 car sitting in our parking in our driveway. So we've just recaptured 91 cents of every dollar. 91% of our money we've recaptured on that initial car purchase. So not quite all of the money, but I did tell you we're going to recapture all of the money. So here's what happens. This keeps going and doesn't stop. Again, this is going to compound and grow for you every year for the rest of your life. So let me show you. In this policy, now in your policy, you're going to continue to put money in for the first 10 years, and then that amount's going to drop, and you'll continue to put the smaller amount in. You're not going to want to stop. You're going to want to put more and more money in because of how the compounding works. But for this example right here, I just wanted to show you how this works, even if we never put another dime into this policy. So we stop putting money into it after the 7th year. However, in the 8th year, we want to buy another car. So we take the $25,000 out, we go buy that car, same thing, we recapture the money. We now have $6,000 a year going back in. So we put no new deposits in, we put $30,000 in recaptured money, and we bought that car for $25,000. So we net injected a total of $5,000 back into this policy. The policy grew from $67,000 in year 7 to $91,000 in year 12. So over 5 years, it grew by $91,000, $23,500. Now what happened? Well, I have $91,000 sitting in my bank, ready to be used again. I've bought 2 cars for $50,000 that are sitting in my driveway free and clear. Seemed to me like I just recaptured all of the money for those 2 vehicles that I purchased. And I'm ready to do it again and again. Now, how does this work? You have to follow 3 rules. Let me show you. I mentioned one of them a second ago. Number 1, pay yourself first. So make sure you're depositing that money in your bank account first. Take care of yourself. Number 2, pay yourself with interest. Just like I was talking about before, if you pay the bank interest, pay yourself interest, plain and simple. Don't shortchange yourself, and always recycle and recapture your money. So those loans that I was talking about, you pull the money out of the policy, or let's say you want to buy a car. So you pull the money from the policy to buy that car, and then in 2 years from now, you run into some financial hard times. Well, if I was to borrow money from Wells Fargo or Ally or something like that, and then I'm in the middle of my car payments and I start skipping payments, what's going to happen? Well, that bank's going to send this repo guy down to my house and they're going to take my car back. So here's the difference. When I borrow the money from my bank and something happens, who's in control? I am. I decide what those terms look like. I decide what happens if I stop paying myself back. So maybe I cut myself a break, or maybe I refill my own car, right? Probably not. But so you're always going to recycle and recapture your money as well. And you're in complete control of how all that works. And by the way, if this works for a car, what else could it work for? Home improvements, a pool, a boat, an airplane. You know, what are you spending your major purchases on right now? What are you borrowing money for otherwise? Let's go to our bank and recapture and keep that money within our financial lives for the rest of our lives. I told you I'd show you how to pay off debt quicker while still building wealth. Does anybody down here have any debt? So this was a chiropractor. This was a real example. So this chiropractor, he made good money. Don't get me wrong, but he found himself in third-party debt up to his eyeballs, about $478,000 worth. He was paying $5,700 a month, almost $70,000 a year in third-party debt. If we did the math for him, it would take him about 19 years to pay off this debt if he followed the payment plans. So he said, all right, let me show you how we can do this a lot better for you. So we started a policy for this chiropractor at $25,000 a year. Again, the amount that you put into your policy, it's up to you. The guideline minimum, what we would recommend to you is 10 times your age on a monthly basis. So if you're 30 years old, $300 a month. If you're 40 years old, 42 years old, $420 a month. So that amount or more is a good starting point for a first policy, okay? But this chiropractor wanted to put 25,000 a year into his policy. All right, so here's what happens. The first year, the chiropractor puts $25,000 into his policy. He has $15,000 available. So you'll notice you don't have 100% of the money available in the first couple of years. Now, we can build higher cash value policies these days. There's been some changes in the rules and regulations on how these work. And we've been doing it for a while now where we've learned how to build real high cash value policies. So if you want a real high cash value, I can get this number way up immediately for you, like within the first 30 days. So you can pull most of it right back out. But for this example, I just wanted to show you how this works, even with the lower cash value in year one for this thing. So they put 25,000 in, they pull $15,000 out to start tackling debt. So they use that money to pay off the Discover, pay off the Lowe's, and pay down the Nordstrom card. What happens here? We were paying $5,700 a month before to third-party debtors. So we just reduced that. We're no longer paying them $161 and $287. So we reduced that by $448 a month. However, what are we going to do with that $448 a month that was going to third-party debtors? What are we going to do with that now ourselves? Yeah, we're going to pay ourselves back. Remember, we're going to recapture that money. So we're going to teach you how to set up what's called a segregated bank account. And what that segregated bank account is strictly for tracking and accounting purposes. And this is nothing more than a checking account. So just a separate checking account that we can use for nothing but infinite banking. So what's going to happen when you take this money out of this policy? It's going to go to that segregated bank account. And then from there, it's going to go to pay off the Discover and the Lowe's card. And then what we're going to do is when we start recapturing that $448 a month, instead of giving that money to Discover and Lowe's, we're going to give that money back to ourselves in that separate bank account. And we're going to let it grow inside of that segregated bank account until we either put it back into the policy or we use it for the next use. In this use, we're going to continue to use this money to pay off more and more and more debt. So let me show you how that works. Year two of this policy. Yeah, Sandra, put back in the policy. Absolutely. All right, so year two of this policy, $25,000 goes in. Now you'll notice the cash value in year two is a little bit higher. So instead of 14,000, now we have over 16,000 available. And you'll notice each year we put money in, the cash value is higher and higher and higher and higher every year for the rest of your life, thanks to compounding interest. So now we have the cash value of 16,000 and the segregated account payments of 5,374. That 5,300 was just 448 over 12 months. So we have a total of 16,000, 5,000, $21,000 to use to tackle more debt. So what do? Pay off the Nordstrom, pay off the Wells Fargo, pay off the private loan, pay down the BMW, eliminate this third-party debt. What are we going to do? Recapture that money back to our financial lives. Year three of this policy. 25 goes in, our cash value is now 25.5, 23,000 in recaptured payments, a total of 48,000. Bye-bye BMW payment, bye-bye West Marine, and pay down the condo. Recapture 3,600 a month back to ourselves with only $2,100 a month going to the condo and the house mortgages. Now, before I go any further, let me just quiz you guys real quick. What have we done so far? So far, we put $25,000 in the policy and we've taken $55,000 out of the policy. So how much remains within our policy? If we put 75 in, we pulled 55,000 out. How much is still in our policy? What do you guys think? So here's what happened, guys. It's not 20,000. We have $75,000 that remains in that policy. And why is that? It's because when that money goes in there, remember what's happening. The insurance company is using our policy as collateral. They're collateralizing that policy to give you these loans out of the policy. And that's what allows all of the money that you put into this thing to compound and grow uninterrupted, guaranteed for the rest of your life. Even when we're pulling that money out, we're actually not pulling our money out. We're using it as collateral and we're borrowing money from the insurance company's general account. So that's how that happens. That's why we're able to remain $75,000 within that policy. Yeah, Todd, uninterrupted compounding interest on all of it, principal and everything. So year four, 25 goes in, 26 available, 44,000 in recapture payments. Pays down the condo. Year 5, same thing. Now, year 6 of this policy, here's what happens. I mentioned before that you're going to put money into this thing for 10 years and then the amount's going to drop. In this policy that we designed, this was a little while ago, in year 6, the amount of money that they're putting into the policy drops down to 10,000. So we put 25,000 in the first 5 years. And then in the 6th year, he's only allowed to put $10,000 in. And the reason he can't put more than that in is because of something called MEC. It stands for Modified Endowment Contract. And the IRS, the government, tells us, they regulate how these policies operate. And they tell us you cannot put more money into it without MECing it and causing a taxable situation. So what we do is we max the policy out. And then whenever we have more money that we want to put into it, then that policy will hold. We start opening additional policies. So you can have essentially as many policies on yourself as you want that you can qualify for. So whenever you max one policy out, you start opening more policies and stacking them, kind of like branch offices at a regular bank. And that's how we start growing our banking system. And you can do more policies on yourself, on your spouse, on your kids, on business partners, on all kinds of different people. So that's why that happens. So this chiropractor now has a branch office where he's putting $10,000 in his first policy a year and now $25,000 a year going into his second policy. You'll see the cash value is $13,000 that year when he puts 10 in. And the first policy, you'll know, goes back down again. 25 goes in, starts back over at that 14.8. We have recaptured payments of 82,000 total cash. So now in the 6th year, we're able to pay off all of the third-party debt. We have no third-party debt going to anybody else after 6 years. And we were able to eliminate this. Instead of 19 years, it took us 6. And now what are we going to do? We'll continue to pay that $5,700 a month into the segregated account. And we will take that money, we'll flow it back into the policy. So you can do it over and over and over again, borrow it right back out. Or you can just take that money and put it to use for the next use. If you have an investment, if you have a purchase, whatever the case might be. So that's that right there. So what I just showed you is what we call a debt map. So we have what's called our mapping team. As soon as you have a policy with us, you go to our mapping team, and our mapping team teaches you how to start using it. So they start teaching you banking principles. If you have debt you want to pay off, they're going to set you up with the same exact plan, as we call it a debt map. So they're going to do a cash flow analysis with you. They're going to break down your finances and your debts, and they're going to set that plan up for you, your personal situation. So all you have to do is follow exactly what we tell you to do. And then we're going to meet with you quarterly, every 3 to 4 months, to update the map, to revise it, to make sure everything's going smooth. You know, let's say that you fell off a few months where you didn't follow the plan. Well, let's get that updated for you and get you back on track. Okay. And we do all of this for you completely free of charge. I call it a financial GPS. Where are you today? Where are you going to? What's the fastest way to get there? And that's how a GPS works, right? So this is the financial GPS. So we're going to do this for every single one of you completely free of charge, just for being a client of ours. Plain and simple. Now, when it comes to building wealth and becoming the millionaire, let me ask you this. What if you don't have any more bad debt? What if you don't need a new car? Can you still benefit from starting one of these policies and doing privatized banking? Should you still become your own banker? And the answer is, oh, hell yes. This is where it really becomes fun. This is where you can start multiplying your money. This is where you can start taking advantage of keeping money moving and making more money. So let me show you how this works, guys, because this is where it becomes fun. So when it comes to building wealth, there's multiple ways to do so, whether you're in real estate, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, whether it's wholesaling or flipping or Airbnbs or long-term rentals or apartment complexes or mobile home parks or storage units or land, or there's so many different ways you can make money in real estate, different types of markets and economies. Maybe you do passive investing, passive income through private money lending, private funds. Maybe you're a business owner. Maybe you invest in stocks or options or crypto, or you do notes. But these are all different ways to create wealth. And this is all stuff that we teach through Money School. So Todd a minute ago was saying that he's going to buy a ticket for the Buffalo event that we have coming up next week no, Buffalo's this week. Todd, make sure you call me. I got to talk to you today or tomorrow. Buffalo's this weekend. Start Saturday and Sunday. So through Money School, we do have this available virtually for you. So if anybody wants to learn how to create wealth and use these policies in conjunction with all of this, this is where we do our Money School Essentials trainings. So reach out to me and we can do that. Todd, the event's sold out, man. So if you're coming in person live, text me and I need to see if Shauna has a cancellation or something so we can get you a ticket. I don't know. The virtual is still open, but if you want to come in person, text me. It's closed down on the site. And actually, let me give you guys a link. So I'm only doing this right now and tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I believe. So I'm only doing this twice, but we're going to offer a virtual discount. So that's the discount you put in. And then let me put the website on here just so everybody has it. So yeah, the in-person sold out, but Todd, just text me and I'll see what I can do for you, man. Because I would love for you to be there in person. So that's the website right there. If you want a virtual ticket for it, that'll discount it, I believe, down to like 197 or 97 or something like that. So it gives you like 100 or 200 bucks off. Use that code virtual discount right there. And, but this training is unbelievable. We've been doing it for 2 years and it's really, 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 really good. So highly recommend it. Compounding interest. Albert Einstein said it best: the eighth wonder of the world. Those who understand it use it, those who don't pay it. You have to implement uninterrupted compounding interest into your lives and start getting money moving. Don't let money sit still. Money sitting still is losing more money. Money in motion is making more money. All right. So let me show you how to start building wealth using this policy. This is an example of a Lafayette Life Insurance Company illustration. I did this for a young lady, 41-year-old lady. I won't tell you her name or where she is or anything like that, but she's a real estate investor and she had just done a deal and had a bunch of money sitting in a regular bank. So what she did, she wanted to dump in a large amount up front. So the way we designed this policy, we designed for her to get an extra $100,000 into it up front. So one of the things we can do is if you have a lot of money sitting around right now, let's dump it in the policy. You'll be able to pull back out like over 90% of it immediately to get that money to work, but it gets it in there and it starts that uninterrupted compounding interest for the rest of your life. And then annually moving forward, whatever amount makes sense for you, we'll just design the policy that way for you. But she wanted to do $150,000 the first year and then $50,000 a year after that. And you'll see after the 10th year how it drops down, like I was telling you earlier. When she puts 150,000 in, she has 132,000 of it available right away to pull right back out. I mean, just unbelievable cash on cash returns right away. Here's another illustration example. So this was $50,000 dumped in and then $500 a month. So who can do $500 a month into one of these things to create your own bank? Anybody, right? Anybody. But this person, I believe, had like equity from a house or a refinance or something like that, a HELOC or something. So they dumped that 50,000 in there and then just started doing $500 a month. The first year, they had almost $52,000 available to use. I mean, look at these numbers on this thing. 25th year of this policy, when they're 62 years old, they're getting 281% cash on cash returns on this money in this thing. All tax-free growth, by the way. So we can design these things however you want. So just let me know when we do our call and we'll talk about it. So this is how money flows when you're investing. Here's our policy. This is our bank account, our money multiplier bank account, our insurance policy. Money moves from there into the segregated account, like I was talking about. Now, when you take a loan from the policy, you're going to pay anywhere from 3 to 5% of the money, depending on the insurance company. And then what we're going to do is this example of a private money loan. I'm going to take the money from my segregated account that I just took a loan from the policy. I'm going to loan it out through the private money club at 12%. That person that I lent the money to is going to start paying me interest monthly of 12%. So I'm going to have that money coming in each month. I'm going to recapture it back into my policy, pay the insurance company the 4%, and then I'm going to make the spread. So what's the spread right there? Well, just like the banks do, it's 8%. I'm making 12, I'm paying 4, and my money's in the policy compounding and growing uninterrupted the entire time. So just a quick example of what that flow looks like and what the flow of investing looks like. We're using one of these policies. And again, the only difference is where the money goes first. It goes into our bank instead of somebody else's bank. Let me show you an example of that. So let's say you use this policy right here to do private money lending, the one I just showed you. Well, in the 8th year of this policy, the cash value, your account grew by $66,000. To make it grow by $66,000, you have to put $48,000 into it. Okay. So we deposited $48,000 into our money multiplier bank account, our whole life insurance policy, and it grew by $66,000 just because that's how compounding interest works. If I do the math on that, that's a 37% cash on cash tax-free return on my money. And then what I do is I take some of this money, take some of this cash value, I go to the private money club and I lend it out. So I lend it out at 12% annually. So I'm making 12% annually on the money that I lent out. My policy that year grew by 37%. I spent 5% to borrow the money from my account to use it. So I made a total of 44% that year on my money. We did nothing different. I mean, this $150,000, this $50,000 a year that this young investor, real estate investor, is putting into this policy, it's not extra money. It's just instead of depositing that money under their mattress or at a traditional bank, they're putting it into their own bank. There's no difference. That's it. So let me ask you, would you rather make 12% taking the money from your Wells Fargo savings account and lending it out on a private money deal? Or would you rather make 44% taking the money from your bank and lending it out on a private money deal? We didn't work any harder. We didn't work any longer. We didn't take on any more risk. And we just went from 12% to 44% returns on our money, just like that, just by changing where the money goes first. Now, remember, we're using this money in the 8th year of the policy, not the 1st year. This is a marathon, but you have to start somewhere. Would you agree with that? And by the way, just some other things about this policy, the death benefit is tax-free. It's going to create a legacy for you and your loved ones. The loans never have to be repaid back. Like I said, you're going to recapture and recycle that money, but you don't have to. It's all tax-free growth within the policy. Most states are excluded from judgments and liens. Using these things for businesses is awesome. I mentioned BOLI earlier, bank-owned life insurance. Well, COLI is huge as well, company-owned life insurance. And we can talk about if you have an LLC or a C Corp or something like that, the best way to set this up. But, we use our policies all the time for business purposes. We get a tax deduction through our business and we're using it through our own personal banks. So it's really, really cool. So ask me about that. And then kids policies, starting these for children. Children have time. Compounding interest work off time. So if you're looking at buying kids cars, college expenses, maybe they want to start a business. These are great ways to start policies for kids and set them up in the future. It's one of my favorite things to do for these policies, set up kids policies. So again, this is all stuff. It's no longer excuses. These are things that we're going to eliminate from being problems in our financial life, and we're going to turn them into successes in our financial life. And we're going to start mimicking what the banks do, or start mimicking what the wealthy do. It's time, guys. Do what Warren Buffett does. Warren Buffett says if the poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. Warren Buffett has such an easy way of saying things, doesn't he? Only one of two things will happen to us when we're alive. Are you better off with or without one of these policies? And once we die, are you better off with or without one of these policies? And if your answer to those questions is I'm better off with it, then I'd love to talk with you. If you like what you heard here tonight, I'd love to talk with you. So the way that you can do that is you can go to this site right here, moneyschoolrei.com/Snaggy. It will give you the bonuses, the books, and you'll also be able to schedule a call with me. If you prefer to schedule a call off of my calendar, so if you don't see anything on there that works for you, you want to talk on the weekend, in the evening, in the early morning, something like that, just shoot me a text message. I'm right here for you, 561-313-6213. It is my personal cell phone right here. I have it with me all times. And there's my email address as well, so you guys can do that as also. So that's all my contact information. All right, guys. Well, have a great afternoon. Have a great evening, depending on what coast you're in. Let me know how I can help you. And I look forward to talking with every single one of you. So have a great day. Thanks for being here. Talk soon. Make sure you join our webinars tomorrow. They're going to be really good. Cheers.